Most of the time I work for NIHR at NetCC, so NIHR Evaluation Trials and Studies Coordinating Centre, where we run, among other things, four programs that are open to the public for general call. I'm here to talk about three of them today. Key points in case you want to go to sleep or need to run away before I'm done. What I'm talking about here is a new style call for three of the programs that we run. We hope it's broad and inclusive and welcome applications that might cross the remit of more than one program. We've had issues in the past with not being easily able to handle things that cross the remit of multiple programs. And we didn't put public health research in this because we couldn't think of a precision medicine question relevant to public health. If you can, there is a route to get it funded. So for us, this is a time of change. It's probably a time of change for everybody. The way we're funded, I hear the CRNs, your funding model is changing in the near future. Ours changed in April. So we have change going on to try and adjust that new funding model and hopefully make things better. We run these four programs. So Health Technology Assessment, which is the oldest funding program within NIHR, been going since 1993, so predates NIHR by quite a distance. Public health research, health service and delivery research, and then efficacy mechanism evaluation, which is in brown because it's funded by the a big chunk of it is funded by the MRC, even though it's administered within NIHR. They sort of form a pathway, ignoring PHR for a moment, with sort of developing sort of phase 2 type studies, understanding mechanism, then getting through to clinical and cost effectiveness about interventions inside usual health service practice. Then HS and DR is about implementation and making sure the services work right to get the things that you've demonstrated worked here to the patient. And public health research is about outside health services to inform the delivery of non-NHS interventions. It very much takes a more population view. We haven't put precision medicine, public health research, into this precision medicine call because basically we couldn't think of a precision medicine or stratified medicine question that fit within our concept of PHR. So if anyone was desperately thinking they had a public health question, we can talk about it later, but it's explicitly not there in this call. So that's gone. But what we have are our three programs that are interested in precision medicine right now. EME, thinking about efficacy and mechanism, HGA, thinking about effectiveness and cost effectiveness, and HS and DR, thinking about organisation and implementation. But you'll notice we've got some dirty great gaps between the two of those, between the three of those. There's these two gaps where historically things have had a problem fitting in. So we're hoping with this approach to close the gaps. This is the call. Have any of you looked at it? Mm-hmm. Yeah, good. Have any of you applied to any of these three programs in the past? Good. It's a nice short call. If any of you applied to HS and DR, they put out theses essentially for their call. They go on for pages and pages. Was that me touching the screen?
Yeah, I think yeah.
There we go. Oh, how bizarre. This is a nice short call. It's even shorter, really, than an HTA call. We start off at the top. This is a call for research proposals in the field of precision medicine. We're interested in prevention, treatment, monitoring, management of patients and outcomes, and delivery and implementation, which is where HSDR might be interested. We're looking for robustly designed studies. What robust means differs between the programs, and it differs between the clinical problem you're addressing. So that doesn't just mean randomized trials. So in HS and DR, a randomized trial is probably not appropriate. You might be comparing different implementation experiences in different settings, for example. So whether you call it a cohort or a natural experiment or a set of case studies. So we're looking for something that is robust for the question that you're asking. I heard you discussing these 7 different definitions of stratified medicine earlier on. We've put what we mean in here, which hopefully is sufficiently broad to encompass anything that you mean. So now, I'm nowhere near it now. That's not me. So we think this is about targeting the right treatments to the right patients using some sort of identification process. It might be a biomarker, genetic markers, or environment, lifestyle factors, other disease markers. I was interested to hear about the comorbidities you were mentioning just now, and you could well imagine calls in the management of asthma for people who already have heart disease or something like that. That will be an appropriate stratification. What I want to call out to you is this. So this call will consider studies in cancer driven by biomarkers. That's fine. But they are likely to get less weight than almost anything else that might be eligible, because there are other major funders who seem to spend all their money on this subject. So if this is your really important question, you're probably better off going to Cancer Research UK, because this is what they want to spend their money on. We had some major discussion about whether we should include cancer at all in here, given CR UK's interest in this area. So it is in there. So you might have a stratified question in cancer with a biomarker that is much more, say, an HTA question than a cancer research question. Maybe you're interested in the cost effectiveness of something rather than purely the clinical outcomes. So that might be a reason to come to HTA. But if it's something that Cancer Research UK would probably be interested in, you're better off sending it there. How do you get the money? So we've got millions of pounds to spend here. We'd like to spend a lot, and we'd really like to get stuff that straddles the programme boundaries, which might be a challenge. So, as always, find an important question, and I'm sure you've got loads of people in your networks who have important questions in this area, to the point that you supporting these applications may well have to sort of filter them down and run sort of some internal process. And then for this call, we still need you to pick a program. Even if it's stretching across the boundaries of the remits of these programs, the way we set this call up is any one proposal will be going to EME or HTA or HS&DR in the first instance. And so if your question is mostly about efficacy or mechanism, it will be EME. If it's mostly effectiveness or cost effectiveness, it will be HTA. But you could imagine a study which might be establishing the effectiveness and exploring organisational impacts, which straddles that boundary between HTA and HS&DR. What we need you to do in the first instance is think, is this mostly HTA? Is this mostly HS&DR? Pitch that program, but make it clear that you are purposefully straddling the boundary. We will deal with that internally behind the scenes. We have other calls, not in precision medicine, that will be opening shortly, where we've come down to just one application point, but we haven't managed to get it sorted out in time for this. So we are aware that's an issue. We'd love to see some cross-program applications here, but we need you to pick a program. For delivering your project, you've got to think, where are you going to do these things? So lots of stratified medicine, I'm sure, happens in big teaching hospitals like here in Leeds. But the closer what you want to evaluate is to being in usual practice, the more you want to make sure it can be delivered in the real world. And most people probably aren't going to Leeds. You might be going to Eastbourne. Eastbourne is not the biggest research place in the world, but it would be nice to know that these things can be delivered in Eastbourne, or patients who would pitch up in Eastbourne in the first instance can be brought into this sort of research. Now, if you're doing an effectiveness study, probably not so important. You're okay in teaching hospitals. But if you're getting into, if you're doing an efficacy study, but if you're doing an effectiveness study, you want to have real-world experience. Most real-world patients are going to start off with their local DGH. Anyone recognise them? Excellent. I was at the Royal College of Surgeons last year. No one in the audience knew who they were. It's a load of registrars at the Royal College. So I thought, am I going to have to change my picture? It's terror. Surgical registrars not recognising these people. It's just awful. If I'd shown Star Trek, I might have been better off. But at least have a doctor on Star Trek. The point being, what we have seen, what we often see with these things that can be highly technical, is teams of scientists or small groups of scientists coming along saying they want to do a stratified medicine or some other very technical project, and that's not the sort of thing we're looking to fund. So you will need an appropriate multidisciplinary team to deliver these projects, and anything that's going to be funded out of any of these programs is going to need a robust team stretching between clinicians, methodologists, bringing in members of the public. I'm going to hope you don't need the embezzler. You might need the computer expert. You probably don't need a thief. But you need a team appropriate to your project. In public health, we sometimes do get proposals including thieves because they're interested in working with the police and things like that. But for these projects, I'm not envisaging the thief. An appropriate multidisciplinary team is key and important and something that people often fall down on. Two surgeons are not a multidisciplinary team, even if they trained at different medical schools, which is an argument I've had made to me in the past. Right. There's the web page. You've got the slides, and if you put HTA and funding opportunity or any of these programs and funding opportunities into Google, this pops up at the top, and I'm sure you've all got the link to this. You get to a lovely page that looks like this. To find these calls, pick the program you're interested in from the box there, and you will get these three. Well, we've got 3 different calls. You have to pick the program you're interested in. Unusually, for the calls we put out, when these run out on the 6th of November, they're going right back up again. So we're hoping to fund multiple proposals against these calls. And for people who are ready with a robust, good proposal for the 6th of November, they can click submit, and they will be considered sometime between the end of this year and early next year, and you'll get some feedback January, I guess, and then those who are successful will be asked to submit a second stage proposal. But if you're not quite ready yet, don't rush. There's another closing date in March, so if you haven't got the best proposal you can put together for November, please wait. It's always better to get it right rather than to get it in quick. If come March you're still not quite there, it's possible these might stay open again, but I don't think that the proposals that we receive by March are going to solve precision medicine. Yeah, that's just not plausible. So these programs will remain interested in this topic for months, if not years, and they all have researcher-led funding streams. So if you've got a proposal that's ready to go after March, you can submit them to any of these programs whenever you like, and they all have streams that will pick those up. When you click through, you'll get the details about specifically what the programs are interested in this call. They explain the program remit in a bit more detail. This is but essentially, if you think phase 2 for EMI, phase 3 for HTA, EMI will always be interested in mechanism, HTA is also interested in cost effectiveness, and then implementation for HS and DR. The details are all there on the website. If you have specific queries, there is a specific email address for each program. So once you've decided, this looks like an EMI study, if you've got a question about it, do write to the EMI address. If the people on the other end think, actually, you might think it's EMI, but we think it's an HS and DR question, you might get a reply from one of the other programs. Also, once you've submitted, everything gets reviewed for remit. So if you put something in to EMI and we think it's in a different program, we'll move it internally to make sure it gets considered by the best funding committee. So we want to give what you're putting in the best chance. And if it's out of remit for precision medicine but in remit for the programs as a whole, we'll handle that appropriately as well. General help, I've heard about RDSs earlier today. Great, I like RDSs, they're great at advising on this sort of thing. If you're doing a trial, you're probably going to want a clinical trials unit on board to help deliver. Some clinical trials units have a lot of experience in precision medicine. The MRC unit in London is the obvious one, but there are others who will be interested in helping out and who are able to help out. So I'm around for questions if you would like.
Thank you very much.